Yeah, there's no sound on the live stream link yet on the video stream. I just enabled it, so anybody who thought there wasn't sound yet, it wasn't a problem. I had it muted because I was still waiting for people to join and getting ready and stuff, which we're still doing. Just give it 2 more minutes. I just gave everybody a 2 minute warning and said we're starting in two, so get your ass in there.
How those kids doing, bro?
Still in one piece, miraculously. I haven't broken them. It's getting easier though. I'm used to everything now. It's like second nature. I'm a professional dad now. BNB hasn't moved up much. It broke out for 6.5%, came back down, and now it's sitting right at the 55 EMA. So we got a lot of Ichima support there. It's bouncing between the 55 and the 99, if you can see. The 99 is also on the bottom of the cloud, so we have two Ichima dynamic resistance levels right there, keeping it down, and then the 55 is holding it up. But the 55 has been really strong for her, so as long as that maintains, we should push back into the cloud, go back to the other side, and then with enough momentum, break through that resistance at 35.83, because that is a substantial resistance right there. I had that resistance on this chart before we even got into this trade. That was an old resistance. So again, that's why I keep all my old support and resistance on the chart for a rainy day, because in the future it might come in handy, just like this time. It was pretty damn accurate. All right, let's see if more people made it to the stream. Yeah, there's more people coming. All right, we'll just keep going then. We'll get started. Where's my coffee though? Well, let me grab my coffee and then we'll get back to it. Nothing? Nobody has any ideas. Shut up, Whitney. Nobody's talking to you. Just kidding. Everybody's talking to you at all times. Everybody loves Whitney. All right. So, just to catch up on, yo.
How about XLM?
Stellar. All right.
Yeah.
Let's check it out. Add it to the list.
Right at the bottom of the cloud.
All right. XLM is
crossing
on our checkout list. We'll check that out in a minute.
Get good support underneath.
All right. Good.
I actually got a 1 hour gap too, right there at the support.
Well, let me pull it up now while I'm looking for my other stuff. Pretty strong double bottom. Nice W other than that one wick, which is whatever. So it retraced about to the 618. So that could be wave 1. Now it's in wave 2. Maybe it'll bounce off the 55 EMA again. Should be right above, just past the 618. Well, if I do it from there. If I do it from, oh, it's right on the 0.5, so still above the 618. But if I do it from down here, oh, that's why. Yeah, I have to do it.
So you're thinking wave 3 maybe?
So we would do, so that would not put the 618's too far if I do it that way, but if I count it this way, which is more likely actually, the 618 is kind of where I expected, right on the 55 EMA. So that 618 would be a solid spot for this wave 2 to retrace to, which we got like a wick that got close. I might go down a little bit further. I wouldn't buy it while this is still red. I'd wait. I want to get confirmation that we're getting the reversal. Because if I were to get a stop loss in there now, if I were to just buy it now, my stop would have to be almost 3%. But if it does go down further and I can get in like right at the 55 EMA, I could do like less than 2%. And I'm below this support at 11.2, which is a really good support. Look at that. Like all those rejections we got, right? We broke through for a minute over here. But other than that, after that first move, broke through for a sec, came back down 2 candles later, and then kept getting rejected. And then we had to fight through on 2 candles in a row before that resistance broke, and we got above it. So I think it's going to be a pretty good support. So ideally, I can get in as close to that as possible, place my stop loss below the 618, which happens to, we got confluence, right? So we have 2 different support types, support and resistance, that are confirming. So this is a confluence zone. It's almost identical. That's where the resistance, support resistance was at 11.242. And the 55 EMA ends up right there, as does the 618 fib retracement. That is obviously a really good support candidate, right? So might as well make a note of that on here.
Yeah, I was going off of Coinbase because I got XLM on Coinbase, but yeah, it's about the similar, it seems like. You should look at it versus BTC as well.
Perfect. Wow, look, I dropped that off perfectly. Yeah, right there. Back to the top.
Always look left, right?
Yeah, so I'm seeing something interesting on here. This might turn into something bigger, much bigger. All right, we're going to come back to this. I'm actually not as worried about the short-term trade. If I see it really...
Thanks for looking at that.
I have a really big potential play, long-term play on XLM that I just saw. So we're going to look at that, and then we're going to dive into the shorter-term stuff again. But right now, there's a potential short-term trade coming up if you buy at the right spot. I'm just sort of ignoring it because I figured we'll come back around to it, but I might as well mention it in case somebody wants to set any orders and get it. And then what we'll do is we'll discuss it again, circle back around, and look at the long-term scenario I just picked up on. So yeah, what I would do here is get back to that bottom where that wick came down, right? So right around there at 11.315, 11.320 in that range. If I set my buy there, then my stop loss can be 1.5% below my entries. That's a very, very, very small risk. And I have the horizontal support, the 618 retrace, the 55 EMA, all working together to protect my stop loss. So if I buy in right here and it goes down, chances are, probabilities in our favor, that the price would hold at that price and it wouldn't go down far enough to stop me out. Now, since I could take on a little bit more risk, I'm not saying other people should do this. You have to make your own decisions as to what your own risk profile and your own risk tolerance dictates. But with me, I'll start with something like this and I'll say, you know what? There might be one of those little wicks that comes down a little too far and stops me out because it's so tight. Since I can afford to lose a little bit more because I've been doing pretty well lately, I'm going to open my risk up a little more and go just shy of 2%. I'm going to set it right around 11K. 11,100, I guess, would be right there. Yeah, 11.1. So it's going to be right around there. So I'll be taking a little bit less than 2%. I could make this trade with only 1.3 or 1.4% risk, but then I might get prematurely stopped out, and I hate taking a little small loss like that when I don't have to. I'm happy to take that small loss and get stopped out if I'm really tight on funds and I don't have the capital, because I've been taking a lot of losses all week, and then I'm trying to make some money on a trade. I'm going to be a lot more careful. I'm only going to enter into trades that have a high probability of success, and I'm only entering into trades where I can set my stop loss pretty close, so it's not opening myself up to too much risk. And in this case, that is one of those trades where you do have a lot of support and you can limit your exposure to only 1.5% at the most. But I'm opening mine up a little bit more, closer to 2, just because I can afford to do it. But it's by no means something that other people should mimic me on. That's a personal decision based on my own personal situation as to what I can or can't afford at the moment. So yeah, that's it. I'll post this in the group. I'm gonna put in short-term plays. So if anybody wants to refer to what I wrote on this chart, you can go back to Discord and look in the short-term plays. I put it in there for now. So, all right, that's what I would look at short-term on XLM. Now, what I wanted to do is run through existing trades, and then I want to look at some potential new setups. Let me just check something here. My Ethereum trade is holding. Broke through that solid resistance right there, that white line. Going through confirmation. What was that confirmation for entry from? Oh, for this newer trade up here. Okay, that's what it was. I wonder if that newer Ethereum trade, I think that's separate from our main trade. I think this was one of those, hey, if you guys missed out on my entry for Ethereum, maybe you could try buying in now. And it looks like that probably stopped out on this dip. But for everybody who got into Ethereum at the same time I did, we're still fine because we got in. My stop loss is all the way down in the high 200s. So I could probably move it up though, because it's only up 5, 6, 7% now. It's not worth moving up my stop loss yet. But that's another scenario where if you're trying to be really careful with your risk, you don't want to open yourself up to too much risk. This is another example. You can move your stop loss up to your entry price and make this a risk-free trade. Then you can break even, worst case. You can't possibly take a loss. So your capital is 100% safe. If Ethereum breaks up 10 or 15%, you can move your stop loss up and lock in additional profits subsequent to that. But what you would do now is move up your stop loss just to eliminate risk, not to really lock in any gains. The benefit of doing so is obvious. The risk is also obvious. If you move your stop loss up, you might get stopped out if the price quickly dips down like it did on this prior little run. It looks like it broke out, it dipped back down before continuing upward. Doing that stopped out people from a later entry, but our entry we were fine because our stop loss stayed down. If we move our stop loss up too aggressively, we could get stopped out on a similar situation, and then we miss out on any potential gains thereafter. So what I'm going to do here is leave my stop loss down at my original stop loss location. I could potentially move it up right here just to that green line right at like 295 to limit my risk a little more, so it's closer to 1.8 or 2.1%. But it's not necessary in the situation to do that. But you have options. You can limit your risk as early as now without necessarily moving it up to risk-free and without necessarily locking in profits. You have other tools in your arsenal, so you should get used to using them all. Let's see. Oh, I forgot. I have something to check. Come on. Oh, this is taking forever. Shit, babies are crying. Let me run up and give her a pacifier. I'll be right back. Be right back, guys. Hopefully that holds. Layla was screaming, but she got a pacifier. All right. Go back to my list here. I just wanted to double check a couple things real quick. I think it's this guy. Short-term plays. I wanted to double check what else I had short-term because I want to make sure I run through everything and catch up on stuff. All right, so now that was all BTC stuff. So it's just my last trades. Obviously, we were in Link and everything. All right, I think that's it. That's a solid trend line back up on EOS. strong looking move. Waves actually could be really big if it breaks the EMAs. It's been having a tough time. If it breaks through the 55 here, it's been inching its way up above it, but if it really breaks through up to like the 99 on the bottom of the cloud, it's going to be a strong entry to walk away from. I might have to jump into that bitch. T-Fuel's making a run. One is already mid-run. ETC's looking great. Wow, I had that pretty freaking well mapped out. Hold on a second. Wait, did I enter this trade when I was on Ambient or something? I'm 100% serious. I have to check my other Binance accounts. I don't even remember it. Hold on. This is funny. All right. Let's see. What did I do? Okay, that might be why. I did set a trade. Well, that sucks because it only partially filled. Ran up exactly to my target, like fucking precisely to my target. Holy shit, man! I love when it's accurate like that. That's amazing. So almost exactly 33.32 versus 33.28%. So what happened was I placed an order, a couple different orders to buy down further. That's why I have this notification right there, right at my last entry here. So I had some buys that filled as it was coming back down. I thought that, so it bounced up and then was coming back down. So what I think happened is I thought it was going to go back to the 222. So I started laddering in a few buys on the way down there. So I have two orders that are open for that would have been pretty big, and it looks like the entry never got hit because it came back down. So it looks like it started coming back down for another test. So it hit down here, and I said that's a really crucial level, and I was waiting for it to come back down, and it never filled my final order down here. It looks like it filled a couple on the way down to this. This must have been during the live stream because I'm remembering it a little bit. This candle came down and touched exactly where my alert was. So those orders filled up in this area, but just not my main order. So I ended up with only a few $100, probably like $800 or $900 worth of it. So I made 30% on that, but I could have made a hell of a lot more if I got in a little higher. But no regrets. I don't believe in having regrets. I got into a good trade and made good money. I can be proud of the trade itself, even if I didn't make a shit ton. It's just too bad that I was just had too much on my mind. I wasn't paying enough attention to it. I'm liking Neo. I like Litecoin too. I like how Neo is fighting against the top of the cloud here, and it never broke out over there. So that's been a pretty strong resistance. So now we're sandwiched between the top and the bottom, as well as the EMAs there. So we might have enough pressure to push up. This also looks like an ABC might have completed, and now we're in a 1-2. This would be wave 3. So if that's the case, that would mean my wave 3 target would be roughly the 1618 extension. So this could potentially be, if we break up through the cloud, we could get a 17% run out of this move. That would be possible. We've had some big moves recently on waves, or Neo rather. Sorry. So that might be a worthwhile trade. Let's see if we can keep the risk down. Yeah, that's doable. I can keep the risk under 2%. Let's see. And we just dipped down to the bottom of the cloud and bounced off. So we have additional support from it. See if I can get in a little lower. It's not really worth it. If I could save more, I would do it. Buying here versus the bottom of where that wick would save like 0.5%. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to keep my risk at about 2% on this trade. Let me get in before I share it, though, before I post it anywhere. ICX got rejected really hard on the 222. Now it's sitting on the 99, which has given it really strong support before. And the 55 gave it strong support before. I think ICX trades really well on the Ichimas, on the Ichima dynamics. So I'm going to make a quick bet. Just looking at this, my spidey sense is tingling. And my theory is that right now it's on the bottom of the cloud in the 99 EMA. So I can get into this trade with 1% risk. Less than that. 0.5 to 0.75% risk. Because I think that we might hold right here. I'm going to risk 0.65%. But if you guys wanted to trade this, you wouldn't want to do that. You'd want to have your risk closer to 1.25, 1.5. I'm going to set my stop loss right at 32.30 pretty much. Hold on. Let me do this. Testing out a theory. See if it works. Doing these insanely low risk trades where you're risking like $3, $4, $5 and stuff. But if it does hold and it breaks out, you can essentially go back to your entry, make it a risk-free trade in 10 seconds if it breaks out. All right, I got a couple of orders in right now. All right, so that order is going to be going a little higher. Just to make it note. All right, good. let's keep going. See if it goes up or down first. A lot of resistance from the 99 on ADA. That support's great at 8,500, 8,550. It would really be a little lower than I had it noted. It'd be right there, which makes sense because if you look, right, I prior to this had that support right here. And you can see it's right in the middle of this wick, right? And right in the middle of this wick. Because I thought it made sense that it would hold right here, right? So this wick and this wick. Now, if I pull this down more, check this out. This wick right here, green one, the red wick right here, plus some of these. So if I actually pull that down to where it makes more sense, right there, now I got all these wicks right there, support right there, minus the 3 or 4 that broke through, right? Plus it fits this original support here and that original support there. It still matches this one here because even though those wicks kind of threw things out of whack, the main trading at that point was right where the candle bodies are, so that still fits. So I can adjust my older support, and it actually makes a lot more sense for what we're seeing right now. As markets evolve, sometimes doing that helps. Looking at your old data points and adjusting them or modifying what they point to can enlighten you and kind of give you a fresh lead when you're trying to figure out what the possibilities are. So, bouncing between the EMAs here. I noted this is a really strong support zone before, that green area. So we had 3, 2, 50, and then we probably started bouncing in that area over here when I made this chart originally. But now that I'm seeing this latest dip, because that's new, now I can see this new bottom. All right. I don't really want to touch Cardano now. I like that support if it was still down there, but obviously it's not. All right, so BNB was one of my trades last night. Luckily, if I didn't sleep so late, I probably would have moved my stops up at some point, and I might have even gotten stopped out. I might have put it right here, but below the 99 EMA in the bottom of the cloud to lock in that profit. But usually, when you're only up 6.5%, I wouldn't be that aggressive, so I probably wouldn't have done that. I think I would still be in this trade no matter what. Right now, I'm just risk free. I didn't want to take a loss, and I figured I could deal with a more precise stop later. I'm going to leave that for now. I'm going to leave this at risk-free. All right, so for now, I'm leaving that risk-free. But I shared these on Twitter, and I said, look, so I did that tweet where I said, link, vet, Matic, BNB, BTT. And that was it. That was the content of the tweet. I didn't share any charts or analysis. That was just for you guys. So they didn't really know what they were looking at. They just knew that I was saying to watch those. And then since then, this broke out 6.5%. Vet broke out 23%, 22.5%. And it's still holding very well. So now my stop loss has to move up. We don't have a good spot, unfortunately, so I'm somewhat limited here. I moved it up just generally into this general vicinity, into the low 82 and change, 83 and change somewhere, because I didn't know what else to do. I just wanted to prevent myself from taking a loss when I woke up and realized I slept the day away and missed out. But that's fine because, again, we haven't come back down on vet. It's still holding. So there aren't a lot of great supports to place it. Like I could go here and lock in 6.5% profit. The current profit is about 17. I'd like to lock in somewhere between 10 and 15. Let's see. This would be like 12%, and it's below this latest push up. So if that was like a little tiny correction as part of the subwave subcount, it might be better to set my SL just below the bottom of that, which is kind of right where this yellow 8500 is. So if I were to set it right at like 8450 to 8575, I would lock in about 9.5%. It's a little less than I would want, but since we don't have that many great supports up here to use, I'm probably going to stick to that. Right here is a decent support where we got all these bounces here, bounces over there, more support, and then a bunch of resistance over here. But that's pretty much the best thing we have. We don't have a lot of great detail on here. Sometimes I'll move over to the BTC chart so I can find more detail and identify better stops because they move together in unison, right? So if we don't have a good stop loss placement here because there aren't any good support lines, but then we look at the BTC chart and we can see on the BTC chart, every time it hits, this level on the BTC chart, it holds as a strong support. So if I compare that to this and I see that USDT and BTC charts have been moving pretty close to one another of late, I can use that information to help estimate a good spot around here where we might end up finding a support. It's not a perfect foolproof plan because the charts themselves are different. The data going to the charts are different. But since they share one common variable, it could be enlightening to look at it and do an analysis on it. I'm not saying it's always going to give you the answers you're looking for because, like I said, they are using different variables. But one of the variables they share in common, and that gives you an edge. If you're looking at it, it's certainly going to give you more information than not looking at it. So it can't hurt. Anyway, so yeah, with that, for now, let me do. I'm going to be conservative on that front. It's not too conservative. I'll lock in about 9.5%. It's not that much higher than it was, but I'm still going to move it to the 8400s. So let me do that myself, and then I'll make a chart for everybody to see. Go on, Neo. Or ICX, you can do it. All right, now with Matic, locked in half of this pump here, but there's a ton more potential where that came from. So let's go to the bottom of this wave. If that's 16%, if I lock in 16, I'm giving up on 12, 11, 12%. That's a lot to give up on. However, if you look at my analysis, look at the count that we had, right? That was my wave 3. That was pretty accurate. I mean, we went right up there. The other possibility is this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're on subwave 5, and it's going to take us right to that 1618 extension at my wave 3 target. The other possibility is this actually is wave 3, and if we break down these hourly candles, we'll see a nice impulse wave where we can find an additional subwave. But if that is the case, we could see this is the completion of wave 3. That was wave 4, especially since it was pretty close to my wave 4 target. And now we're up in the final wave 5. Either way, we're going up. We're either going up to the wave 3 target or we're going up to the wave 5 target. So with that in consideration, I would like to be as conservative as I can so I can avoid getting stopped out. If I were to move my stop loss up right now to lock in 25, 24% of my profit, what would happen if a quick little wick comes down, stops me out, and then it continues up to that wave 5 target, right? Which would end up being a 50% profit. So I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to keep my SL below this support and only lock in 17%. I could probably go up to like 19%. But again, this is an example where your risk tolerance should dictate what you do. So if any of you are trying to lock in profits more aggressively, lock out risk more aggressively, you're really in a tough spot. You want to make as much money as you can, but you don't want to risk too much because you know you need that capital to build upon. It might be a good idea to get more aggressive and lock in more profit. You might lose profit if you get stopped out and then it keeps going, but you're going to get your profit if it stops out and doesn't go back up. If it stops you out and keeps going down much lower, you're going to be really happy you sold when you did. So you could be more aggressive and place your stop loss below this support all the way, locking in like 24%. That is really aggressive, but at the same time, you're guaranteeing yourself 24%, unlike me where I'm only guaranteeing myself 17 or 16.5%, you know? So there are pros and cons to each path. Just know that. And what I do is not necessarily what you guys should do. Sometimes you guys should do something totally different than me. I'm just doing what I do because it fits my own risk profile. That's why it's important you don't ever follow anybody blindly, whether it's me or anybody else.
Jesse, I think ICX just hit.
I didn't get a notification, so. Yeah, it didn't stop me out yet. I'll get an alert when it does.
Oh, sorry, I meant for the buy-in.
Oh, I already bought in. I was just doing a little experiment here with to see if I can risk just 0.6% if it holds at the bottom of the cloud. Right now, it's literally on the bottom of the cloud where that last wick went. So if that wick goes any further, it stops me out. If we go back up from here and that support holds, my experiment will have been succeeded, and I will have found that it did hold. It looks like it is going down, so it's probably going to stop me out. Most likely, it's going to stop me out, but like I said, it was more of an experiment. I didn't put a lot into it, and I only risked 0.6%, so I just kind of wanted to see what would happen. All right, now Link, same thing. Good thing I didn't move my stop loss up too aggressively. My call last night on Twitter was here, so I was telling everybody it went for another 41%. But my call to the group was obviously from way back. I had sold a portion of my assets for profit, but the rest of so I had sold for 50% on this sell, and then the rest of my bag I held on to, and I'm obviously up quite a bit. I'm not even setting a stop loss on it because it's a longer term position. I'm going to hold it a little bit longer, so I didn't set a stop loss on it, but I might do that. We'll see. There is a really great support here though, so if you're still holding and you want to set a stop loss on Link, if I end up deciding that I am going to set a stop loss on it, that stop loss is going to go right below this support. It's perfect. Just in case there's a little bit of a range, what I'm going to do, in case the stop loss, in case that support range goes from the yellow line just to where this blue line is, the bottom of those two wicks, because there's also this wick got rejected there too. So that could be a little bit of a range, right? So what I'm going to do is set my stop loss a few ticks below the bottom of that range where those two wicks hit. Give myself a little bit extra protection so I don't get stopped out being too tight on that support. So just call it 63%. Okay. BTT was the last one. Algo's been doing nice. For those who don't remember from our discussion last night in the live stream, I actually still have a little bit of algo, and I thought it probably did bottom out down here. So right now, right, if that was the bottom and we are making this final turn, we could end up in wave 3, right? So we could have had wave 1 from the bottom, back up to the top on that pump, back to the bottom. So if that is the bottom of wave 2 rather, then wave 3 could run with a rough target like 54% up. So there's a lot of potential in algo, looking at it that way. If we were to enter in, we got EMA supports have been doing pretty well, like right here, once it finally formed on this chart. So we do have some support there. There was a support at 154. You could see all that support over here, plus all these rejections and supports there. Again, rejection, 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 more rejections. We finally broke above. It's right at the bottom of the cloud, and it's also right where the 99 EMA is. This could be a great time to enter because we're right above that support. If we were to enter right on that support here, and again, I'm already holding a bag, but I might get into a fresh trade on this, even though it's still considered risky because this coin itself is risky. I think I can get in with a pretty low risk trade here, since the price is currently right on that support, right at the bottom of the cloud. Coin like this, usually you need a lot more risk, but I can get into this with like 2.5 to 1.8% somewhere. In this case, I'll probably take on a little bit more right here at like 2.6. Give myself a little extra protection, but this works. So I'm going to share this. but I'm gonna go place my orders first before the price moves, and then I miss out. Oh, ICX just stopped me out. That's fine. It was worth a try. Oh no, it didn't. It broke up. It hit my high alert. Holy shit, guys! Look at that. So instead of hitting my stop out alert, I thought it did. It held right at the bottom of the cloud, and then it went up, and it looks like we're moving up solidly now. So what I'm going to do is move my stop loss to the entry and officially make it a risk-free trade, even though I'm only risking 0.6% anyway. Since I'm trying out this theory where I'm doing it much more aggressively, this would make sense. Although, you know what, I'm not going to move it yet. It's only 0.6% I'm risking. It's like a free trade anyway. So I'm going to leave it right now. I'm going to wait and see if we can get up a little bit higher. All right. That's holding well. Oh yeah, algo. Okay, so I should be good now. Let me do one more order. All right. I think should be good. Oh, we didn't talk about BTT. All right, so with BTT, I'm risk free now, but I can lock in some profit here. I think probably wouldn't. Oh, definitely wouldn't go down here. I'll lock in profit. Why not? I'll put in like 2.6% profit. I'll show you why in a sec. So right here we got a good support right here, where we had support from right here, a bunch of different attempts to break down. And then right here, we had some resistance on the way up, plus more support on that next wick down. We also see that support translate to all the way back here. Even if I move it down slightly, it'll fit a little bit better. But yeah, that whole area, tons of support and resistance. So this is a very important SR zone right there. Now we have the 222 EMA right there with it. So that's a really strong support. We also have support right at this 618. You can see there was a bunch of support there with all these attempts to break south of it. Same thing over here. A lot of instances where that was providing support. Let me add one there too. This was roughly a good support zone. No, you know what? Back over here, a lot of additional support. That's kind of a hit or miss support. Sometimes it's really strong. Sometimes it's not doing that great. But still worth having a note about, pay attention to it and whatnot. That's a good support right there. Right here, over there, right over here, over here. This rough range formed there. So yeah, we have some good supports there, but most interestingly, where my stop loss is, we have this, which is a really good support, right where the 222 is. We have a decent support up here. Then we have all the EMAs at the top of the cloud, the 0.5 fib that was good before. So there's a ton of support there. Locking in 2.75%. I'm extremely confident I'm not going to get stopped out on this trade. I would be blown away if it dipped down far enough to stop me out. I think it's extremely unlikely, but it's still a possibility, and I accept that. So I'm locking in a little under 3% now. I'm not getting too aggressive with it. And then if we push up and get above that 786 retrace and push up towards that prior top at 14,000, that's when I'll be able to lock in a substantial amount of profit, closer to 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8% profit. So we'll pay attention and see how that transpires and make our adjust our plans accordingly. Looks like, so on this chart, it looks like that stopped me out, but it didn't, because that's not where my stop loss actually was. My charts are never exactly where my stuff is. It's usually a little ways off, but not too far. It's always within like 0.5%. So I didn't get stopped out. I'm still in BTC, but I'm still in a bunch of other alts now, and a lot of my capital is tied up in them, so I don't have quite as much in Bitcoin. If I had more, I probably would want to lock in profits once we break this top there, but I don't think I need to. I think if it breaks there, it'll keep running up enough because it has to test these major resistances. If it breaks those, then we're in really strong shape. If it fails at those, we could be seeing another corrective wave. So we'll have to pay attention and see what happens. I'm not going to adjust my stop loss on BTC yet, though. I'm still risk-free on the Binance entry for Bitcoin. For those who don't remember, I got in on my Coinbase with the big order, and then I made another buy on Binance, which was a lot smaller. I'm still risk-free on that trade. I never moved up my stop. I gave you an optional stop. I said if you wanted to lock in 5%, get more aggressive, you could, kind of like I did earlier with some of the alts. But anybody who did that got stopped out. I didn't want to get stopped out. So I'm sitting at risk-free right now. And if we get a correction, and this is an A, B, and we still have a C wave down, that C wave down is going to stop me out on a lot of stuff. If my model is right, and this was an ABC and it's complete, that puts us 1, 2 on subwave 3, which will go all the way up to here. Then a little retrace, subwave 5, and that'll finish wave 1 of the bigger wave 3 that we have coming, which is going to take us all the way up to 30K, potentially. That 30,000 count is very possible. I'm not saying that I believe it's going to happen and go all the way up there. That's pretty aggressive. But I definitely think that that model is worth paying attention to because all my other BTC models have been exceptional, including and especially the one that brought us to this point, my 10K model that took us up to 10,000. Since then, I've also had a couple big calls on BTC, like I called that big running flat, and I said this looks like a running flat ABC. So everybody who's calling for an additional drop was wrong. The whole time it was just a running flat, and we were going to have a strong impulsive move after that. Nobody else got that call right. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just illustrating how well my BTC model has been performing. That's why I have so much confidence looking at my BTC model now. All right, let's quickly run back through everything that we went over. So ICX is still holding right there at the 99, and that's again why I didn't want to move my stop loss up because I thought it might come right back down, and I really want to see if this trade can play out well. Maybe break the resistance at 3,300. Still waiting for XLM to fill, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. It's right there right now. The aggressive stop loss option on BNB would be right here around like 34.40. If you wanted to get aggressive, you can lock in a small profit with like 2% there. But chances are, if there's another little wick that comes down and breaks this, even the slightest amount, if it breaks that support, then you'll get stopped out. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't do it myself, and that's why I didn't. I'm still at risk free. All right, Vet's holding at the top of the cloud pretty well. That could be a strong support, so that's good. I like the Matic chart a lot. I think it's going to push up either, again, that wave 5 target, or it's going to be the wave 3 target, one or the other, depending on which count ends up being right. This is wave 3, or sorry, this is wave 5 going all the way up, or this is sub wave 5 of this wave 3 that's not actually finished yet. Could be either. Just to draw out the example I was giving you, it could be like this. So I might still have to finish that wave 3. Just like that. So we'll see which one it is. Either way, I still think we're going up though. Let's take a BTC overall really quick. All right, so did we finish? Actually, oh, I still wanted to quickly look at it. Okay, so with Link, this is a little bit of an aggressive stop loss. Again, I'm not doing it, but if you guys want to, you could lock in 63%. I'll go on back in, small amount of risk, 2.6% on the line. Big potential payday if we do break up and get above the 99 EMA here. And tiny profit locked in on BTT, but I think that's going to hold. All right, so Ethereum is holding, that's fine. I'm debating if I should get back into LTC. All right. Yeah, let's push back over to Bitcoin. Take a look at her. I don't have an entry right now on Litecoin. I'm not going to jump back in just yet. Well, at least I have my long term, but I'm not going to jump back into a short term trade on Litecoin just yet. Where's TRX? All right, I'm just looking at potential support area here. It's right at the top of a strong support range on XRP. It's a really good support range right here from the current price where that green dotted line is, right? The top of these candles to where this support range is, right? SR range. Between those 2 points is a crucial support area. So you can see over here, a lot of trading right there. Dips down to this one. Most of the candle bodies hold at that top one right here, where my mouse is. Boom, 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 boom. Super rejections, right? Got an ascending triangle, broke out, then fell flat, came back down. Over to here, again, the bottom of that range, top of that range. A lot of support at the top of the range. A lot of rejections and support at the bottom of the range. So yeah, ton of trading right in that SR range right there. So I'm interested in that. I'm taking a look and wondering if there's a potential entry where we could take advantage of that trend that we spotted. Because again, trading is just identifying trends and taking advantage of them, right? Looking for statistical anomalies, identifying patterns, right? If you're really good at doing crossword stuff like that, where you identify patterns and use logic to solve problems, then you're good at trading. I'm an engineer, so or at least I have an engineer's mind. That's kind of why I fell into trading and started doing so well right off the bat. Well, I had to learn a lot. It took some time, but still, I got through the process pretty quickly, and now I can share my experience with you guys. But if you have that sort of mind, if you're artistic and creative, but you like logic, I think those are the attributes that make people a really good trader right off the bat. XRP did have a lot of support down here. There's a decent trend line forming back up, at least a rough one. We had some bullish divergence early on. Let's see what happens if it gets back above. Yeah, that would be a really big, solid correction too. That ABC coming out of that wedge, right? That'd be a drop all the way back down to my old original entry on this trade, which is amazing, right? That was a great trade too. Look at that. That was a perfect entry. Shot up after that. So I'm thinking if we can get above that range, that's the perfect time to enter into XRP. So I think I'm going to buy right as we enter the cloud, or right as we get into right as we break that resistance and support range, right? So it's going from here to the top, right? It's going pretty much between the 55 and the 99, and that lines up with all these ranges over here, right? So this whole range here, for all this time that I was just tracking and explaining, always occurs in the same range. That's right between where the 55 and the 99 are right now. So the fact that we're sitting in the middle of that range means that if we break through the top, there's a good chance that we could keep going up. The fact that we're also sitting below another EMA in the bottom of the cloud tells me that that could be a solid place where there's a strong wall, and if that wall comes down, we break through it. It could be a big move. So I think it's worth getting into a trade here. The risk is within our control. I'm going to do it, especially since there's a bunch of supports. The bottom of the range is right below us. I could do it with only about 2% risk. So I'm going to do that. And then target-wise, I would say the main target would just be that main resistance up there, but I don't see why there's really nothing else holding it down if that was such a big correction. That big ABC, we should have another pretty big impulse following that. We should have at least a potentially big wave one, which I think is what it would be based on what we're seeing. I don't need so many duplicate supports here. I'll zoom in. Alright, let me just get my trades finished here. All right. Okay. All right. So we'll look at BTC again. Anybody have any questions? Discord voice crew, you guys got any questions? Oh shit, where's my oh, there we go. sorry. Let me just check one thing, guys. You guys can ask me questions, though. I'm still waiting. Nobody has any questions. I'm going to disconnect from the voice channel because it sounds like nobody wants to talk, right? Sometimes you guys just listen, which is fine. But if you're not going to ask any questions, then there's really no point in doing a voice call. I'll just keep going through the charts on the live stream. So, we're good?
You have such a soothing voice.
Well, you can hear it through YouTube. There's no point in sitting with using my phone, so I can't use it for other stuff if everybody just wants to listen in tonight.
For real though, you should look at all these in BTC too.
Well, since I'm not going to trade them I'm not going to use a stop loss to stop me into BTC. So what I end up doing is I only really look at the charts for BTC. The only time it's really relevant is if I need that extra bit of information to clarify something. So if I'm looking for confirmation of my analysis, or if I can't really find a good support or resistance, I might borrow some info from the BTC charts. But beyond that, there's not that much of a point. But like I said, it could be helpful because they share a common variable, but it's not going to be guaranteed by any stretch. So I don't often do, but sometimes I do. If you specifically want me to, I can take a look at it. I have nothing against doing that. It's just when time's limited, I don't really do it unless I need to.
I'm just thinking that if they're not outperforming BTC, you should just be BTC.
Well, but there's no way to know that. Not only do you have to know what that coin's going to do, you have to model what that's going to do, and you have to have a good model of what BTC is going to do. If you're going to try to anticipate if something's going to outperform BTC, then you're not just doing one analysis, you're actually making two calls simultaneously. You're making a call on what coin A is going to do, and you're making a call on what BTC is going to do. And in the last 24 hours, it would have been far better to be in the USDT pair than the BTC pair. We're making cash regardless without any additional risk, right? BTC, it's been everything. All of my calls have been outperforming BTC in the last 24 hours.
Right. I just noticed, like on Matic, that the fibs and most of the reactions line up better on the BTC chart than they do on the USDT.
Yeah, but I'm doing well on Matic. So is there what would be the benefit? I don't really have a benefit of why I would want to analyze it from that perspective if there's no benefit to it. Because I'm doing well, my model lines up well, so that would be the only time. That's the example I gave, right? If I'm having trouble finding good support and resistance here, I could look at the fibs on BTC, and that'll help give me some more information. So that's a perfect example of when I might want to look at the BTC chart because I want to get more info and identify other supports that I can't see here. I haven't really looked at the fibs on this one either, but let's see. Might as well actually. Then we'll go back to Bitcoin. So if that was a completed wave 3, then that would mean wave 4 retraced perfectly to the 382. That could fit. And that means that this could be a C wave. If we break south of the 382, this is a C wave, and we're going to correct even further, probably to the 0.5 fib. If this all was the correction, and now we're in the next impulse wave, which is wave 5, then we would hold before getting to the 382 because that would be 1 and then wave 2. And if this is wave 3, we'd see the same thing. So identifying whether or not it's going up or a correction, the only way it's a correction is if this right here was an A, that's a B, and that's a C. And if that is the case, we'll know pretty soon because we'll drop fast, much further than the 382. And if that if it fits where, if this wasn't the full wave 3, but this was just subwave 3, and then we still have 4 or 5, then the retrace would look like this. It's really no difference. It's pretty much the same. But that'll tell us. If I get that notification, then it was a correction. I'll get stopped out with 17% profit, and then I can target an entry back in, maybe below the 0.5, closer to the 618 extension around there, around 2200. So I might stage a re-entry if I do get stopped. If this holds and moves up from here, then that just confirms that this is bullish. This is either subway 5 or this is main wave 5. Either way, it's going up. But we'll know pretty soon if we get confirmation. Why is everything dipping? Is everything dipping or just Matic? Let's look at the others real quick. Everything is a little bit red, some more than others right now. 55 is holding on BNB. ICX is actually holding well. XLM, I still haven't gotten my buys filled. Link is not coming down too much. So yeah, it looks like mostly just Matic has got this hard red drop. Besides that, the rest seem to be holding pretty well. Some of them are even up right now. Currently got a green hourly. So hopefully it's just Matic that's going to take this hit. If I get stopped out for 17% profit, I ain't going to cry about it. I'll be fine with that. And then I can re-enter once we bottom out and start that next leg up. Yeah, BTC is pushing up here. So with my last BTC analysis, where I had this ABC mapped out long before it happened, and then it ended up happening pretty damn accurately. Then the question became either that was an A and then a B, and now we still have a big C wave down that's going to take us down to like 8,000 to 9,000, or my more aggressive bullish scenario actually fits, where this was a completed ABC zigzag, and that puts us in the next big impulse. And if that is the case, we're just going to keep running and running for the next 2 or 3 months. This is going to be the biggest run you've ever seen. If that's what happens. Now, I was looking at the BTC chart before, and it felt different. Let me look. Maybe I was looking at the 4-hour. Maybe that's why. That could explain a lot. No, I wasn't. That's weird. What was I looking at then? What the hell? Like, I really think we're just going to explode up from here. I would like to correct back down to 9,000. That would be fantastic. If that happened, I would put a lot of money back into Bitcoin. And we would see BTC dominance go down. Some of the altcoins would start getting people to pay attention to them. That could be really big. But we've gone parabolic here, and I don't see there's nothing to stop us. We need to have a massive sell-off, and I just can't see that happening. Since we capitulated, everybody who's still holding Bitcoin are long-term holders. If you're a long-term holder, you weren't going to sell no matter what. That's why we capitulated and bottomed out. There were no sellers left. Nobody left to dump on the market and lower the price. As a result, the price has been going up continuously with a parabolic curve. There's no reason for that to stop until you reach a point where those people liquidate and take their profits. There's no reason for them to do it. If they weren't willing to sell, if they weren't willing to leave the market and dump down in 3,000 at 3,000 or 4,000, then that means they want to hold until we get back to at least an all-time high. So nobody's going to be liquidating and selling until we hit 18 to 20,000. Once we hit 20K, I think a lot of people take profit. Some people who got burnt in the market, who made their money back after holding for 2 years, some of them are probably going to leave, but a lot of people are going to stay in. So we're not going to see a huge sell-off. We'll probably see a smaller sell-off, maybe a little correction to back down to like 17, 16,500, lose a few $1,000s of value, just like we did here when we went from almost 14 all the way back down to almost 10. So we lost 3,000 and change. I think we're going to see a bleed like that, where it comes down and then we resume back up and continue all the way to 30K. And that's the end of our third wave. Then we retrace again back down $5,000-6,000 to the mid 20s, and then we make a final push up to probably 40 something. 50K by the end of the year is possible, but we would need some really aggressive capital injection. So if that bullish scenario plays out, it's going to be huge. You want to be in and prepared for that. You don't want to be on the sidelines. So no matter what, you should at least be in Bitcoin and set a stop loss if you want. Because once we start breaking out into that run, it's not going to stop. If you're paying close attention to the market, you can stay in tether for right now and keep your capital safe. That's the most prudent thing to do, to be honest. That's what I would do. Since I'm actively watching the market, though, I could jump in at any point in time. I'm trading other stuff, and I want to be in Bitcoin, but if I didn't want to, I would be fine leaving my money in USDT. And then as soon as Bitcoin does take off, I'll be able to jump in without missing out very much. I'll only miss out on that initial pop. Plus, it's going to correct along the way anyway. It's not going to go straight up to 30K. But that bullish scenario is definitely possible. And if it doesn't happen, that's kind of what I expect. So I won't be sad about it. But if it does happen, we're going to be in a very, very good position. It's a win-win. If it goes down, I get to buy in cheaper because I'm going to get stopped out. I get to take all my capital, buy in at a lower price. That's like I sold it short. That's like short selling, right? And if it does go up, and we get that crazy bullish run, then I'm making a ton of money, so I'm happy. There's no way I can lose in this scenario. If you properly manage your risk, it's impossible to lose. All you can do is win, win, win. All right, so Matic is held at that support. That's good so far. BNB is holding really well at that 55, huh? It's really, really holding its own. All right. What I'll do is we'll take a couple quick questions and then call it a night. I'm still going to update the charts and pay attention, maybe find some good entries, possibly. Right now, I haven't found anything that looks good besides the few that I shared. But if before I go to sleep I find any newer entries that look good, I'll let you know about them. And I'll share those as well. So for now, I'll just do a couple questions. Somebody mentioned something about looking at ZIL, so we'll look at that really quick, and then yeah, if anybody has any other questions. Got a little mini cup and handle here. That's an interesting little formation, actually. Boop, boop, boop. It could be a nice little formation to make a play off of. So that was a big correction. My ZIL trade before, I identified this trend line. That trend line actually held. It never broke. Unfortunately, we kept going down. We never got the reversal. But that trend line itself, at the time, held really well. We never dropped any faster than that. I thought that was going to push us up because it was falling into a bunch of horizontal supports, but that never happened. Then we developed newer trend lines that were a little bit less extreme. So let me get a larger scale look at this. So that doesn't really fit with the more recent movement. This latest move doesn't quite hit that that trend line. It's not as extreme as the earlier one, but that's still a strong downtrend. So we're back in an uptrend here, it would seem. So that was a big big correction, right? And then wave one, if that was wave two. So imagine this is actually another impulse. This could be a big one. So if this was a wave one here, and that's wave two, we could be starting a super run that, again, if BTC makes the really, really big run that it potentially could, if that were to happen, then a lot of these alts could make this exact move that I'm showing you, this really, really big bull run, where it can, here, this would be 100% over the course of probably a week or two. That is possible on ZIL. It's one of the reasons I was so into it before, and then I got burned and got stopped out like 3 times, and then I said, screw it, me and ZIL are over. We are breaking up. No more of this crazy up and down nonsense. She didn't show me anything. She kept burning me every time. So we never had a lower bottom. So that was our bottom. So that would mean the only thing that makes sense would be for this to be an impulse wave, because we've never seen it any other way since we got the USDT listing for ZIL. Everything fits perfectly. Like, that looks perfect. We got 618 coming up. There's some support there, not a ton. Let's see. We're seeing if this orange line matches up with any good supports. This one here at 1798, so at 1800. This one, look at that resistance and support over here. That's a really good. That's an important support and resistance. Back here, it wasn't as reliable, but it was over here, so it's hit or miss back then. And more recently, it's been clutch. So we could potentially rely on that one a little bit. So that's the orange one. Major support here. Major resistance zone over here. And then some resistance over here between there and the other resistance. So that formed a little bit of a range. And since then, that range has held a little bit. You can see it more recently. The orange to the yellow, right? Support down here. And a bunch of support over here before it broke through. And then after it did break through, do we get any passive signs of support? Yeah, we do. So support on this candle, support on that candle. Again, support, resistance on this candle, support on that candle, more support, more resistance. So that's called a passive sign of support. I told you guys about that for premium members, learned about that in other streams, where you might have a support and resistance that gets a strong bounce off of that line, like right here, right? That's a strong support. The candle bounced right off. Here, the next wick bounced right off of it, strong support. But then you have one that breaks through. So now you have to look at passive signs of support. This candle was a big sell-off, a big dump, so it sold right through that support. But then when this came back up, this next pump back up didn't go right back up to where it started. It took 2 candles to do it, and that candle was broken in the middle right at our support. So on the way up, this hourly candle got a hard rejection from our resistance. Then we get a hard support from our resistance here. Same thing here. The wick of this candle shot down with a couple quick sells down to our other support, at the bottom of the range, but then it shot right back up and the candle closed at the bottom of, or at the top of our support, right where that support is. And then the next candle, same thing. The body of the candle, where the candle closed, was further down. It opened rather right here, and it never held above that. It dropped down from there, and then the same thing. We got support at the lower side of our range. This one broke through, and then on the way back up, more passive signs where the bodies of these candles are getting rejected right at that support. So those are passive signs of support when you're not actually getting a support or resistance bounce or rejection, but you're seeing it on candles that broke through and the candles right before and right after them. You can see that there's a break right there at that level. So this little range here is clutch. If I were to enter ZIL here, I would use the top and the bottom, that entire range, so I can keep my risk. It would be a little over 3%. I don't like that. I might want to set a buy right at the support, and then I can use my stop loss can go to just about 3%. I'll have a little more space below the bottom support of this range, and the 55 EMA is actually going to end up going up and protecting me because it's going to keep moving up. Even if the price starts to come down here, the EMA is going to continue moving up, even if it's slightly reduced. The incline is slightly reduced. It's going to keep going up and meet up with the support right here, the orange line support, and the bottom of the cloud. So we're going to have 3 different support types right there providing confluence. So this actually is a good entry, but I would only do it if I can get in a little bit cheaper right on the support. It looks like we're dipping down to that point now. I can't make a chart. I got to place the order. So let me just do the order really quick, and then I'll make a chart after, and hopefully it's in time where you guys can see it. But I'm essentially going to buy in between 1800 and 1807. I'm going to buy in between that range, closer to the bottom if I can. So let me do that really quick. Right, I think that should do it. All right, let's see if I get my fills.
How many short-term trades do you have going at one time? Because I can only do like half dozen at most.
Yeah, it depends. It varies greatly. I'll go over that in a second. Hold on. So there's some scenarios where I'll get into sometimes I'll get into like a dozen trades or sometimes even more at once. It's kind of rare. Um, Usually I'm between 5 to 10 trades most of the time. Um, and I don't sell my way out of trades. So if I really want to get into a trade and I'm out of capital, sometimes I'll move some of my longer term BTC or something in to play with it, but it's very rare. I usually stick to the strategy where I keep everything separate and firewalled from each other. Um, if you want to get into 10 trade, if you have $1,000 and you get into 10 trades and you put $100 into each trade, that's fine. There's nothing against that. There's no reason why that would be a bad path. Instead of getting into 2 trades with 500 in each, or 4 trades or with 250 in each, there's no benefit to doing that. The benefit would be that if one of those trades goes up, you'll make more money because you have more money invested in it. But what happens if the 4 trades you get into don't do that well, and the other 6 out of 10 that you skip out on end up doing really well? That's always going to be a risk. So you need to be able to identify the trades that are best, that look best for you. But the most important key to remember is that it's always better to be as diversified as you can. It may seem like you're in a better position with a $1,000 trade to make more money if it breaks up, but I'm telling you that you're always going to increase your odds by being in more trades. If you're in more trades, you have a higher probability of being in a trade that goes up. You also have a higher probability of being in a trade that goes down, but with my model, the trades that go down aren't dangerous because we control risk really well. When we go up, you get a huge benefit, but when it goes down, you take a tiny loss. So if you're in more trades, you have a higher probability of getting tiny losses, but you also have a higher probability of getting very big gains, right? So if you look at it that way, you're always better off being in more trades. You want to be in as many trades as you can because the more trades you're in, the more big gain trades you'll hit. You're also going to hit more losses, but the losses are irrelevant compared to the big gainers. So if you get into 10 trades instead of 5, and 3 of those 10 trades do really well and the other 7 completely crash, you're still going to be making money because those 3 trades brought in more profit than the 7 losers. When on the other hand, if you only get into 3 or 4 trades, the same applies. You might get a few losers or a few winners, but the key is at least you're going to increase your odds and get in as many good trades as you can to increase your probability of hitting those winning trades. Because if you end up getting into 3 trades and you take a small loss on all 3, that'll add up to a lot more because you're not getting any wins with it. You're only taking those losses. So it's good to be in more than 5 or 6 trades at a time. I try not to limit myself to that few, but generally it's between 5 and 10. So if I'm in only 5 or 6, that's pretty low for me. I like to keep it on the higher end of that spectrum. And then in some instances I'll get into 12 to 15. Not very common though. Usually when that happens, I don't have enough capital to put like 15, 20 grand into the trades. So they'll become $3,000-$4,000 trades instead of, really big trades where I can make huge profits. But still, a $4,000 or $5,000 trade, if I'm making 20%, is going to cover my car payment for a couple months. So that's fine as long as it works well. I'm happy to take on extra trades. But yeah, it's a common misconception that being in more trades is somehow bad because it lessens your profits. You might be making less money on each winning trade because you don't have as much capital in it, but you're making more money overall. If you don't believe me, try out the different strategies using paper trading. Try to open 10 paper trades, set your stop losses, right? So maybe the next 10 trades we get into, if you like them, don't do it just because I say so. I don't like when people just blindly follow me, you know that, but take the next trades that we get into as a group, the next 10 of them, see how they do, and then say, all right, up front, I'm getting into these 10 trades, except I'm going to see how trades 2, 4, and 5 would do, because those are the 3 I would get into if I only got into 3 trades, and then see how it plays out. If 3 out of those 10 trades end up breaking out and you only got 1 of them, you might make less money in the long run. So the best way to test out if different strategies like that work and what the best way to go is for you is to try it yourself. you're going to lose a lot of money if you just try it on the live market. But if you do it while you're paper trading, you can practice while you're still trading with low risk entries in the market. So you can still get into low risk entries if you're doing well. You don't have to stop trading altogether, but you should start paper trading a bit so you can practice and see what the best strategy is for you personally, because everybody's different. All right, anybody else have any other questions? We'll call it quits on the stream. We went over 2 hours. I was planning on doing like a half hour with everybody and then another stream with private, the premium group. But we pretty much covered a bunch of the educational stuff that we normally would have done. It's still not considered a Vader University stream because I'm not covering a specific topic in a lot of detail. But I'm going to record a video before I go to sleep. Hopefully tomorrow I could put out a couple of those Vader U videos because I was working on them. One of them I was going to do a whole PowerPoint for, but it's not finished, and I'm really anxious to get that info in your guys' hands. I'm really anxious to share it all with you and start teaching you some of the stuff you don't know yet. So I'm going to just put out a quick video instead of the whole scripted PowerPoint one that I was planning. So we could probably do a couple of those tomorrow. So stay tuned for Vader University announcements and new educational content if you're in premium. And if you're in basic, stop being a cheapskate and man up, you pussy. No, I'm just kidding. That's fine. You just don't get that content, so ignore that announcement. All right. Any other questions for right now? If not, I'll be in the chat the rest of the night, and I'll share any updated charts later on before I go to sleep. Just say the word. No questions right now?
Thanks, Jess.
All right. You're welcome, buddy. I will talk to you in the chat. I will be around for at least the next couple hours.